Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are reacquainting ourselves with a character we've done a recent podcast on. The character is Animal Man.
Revisiting.
Yeah.
Reanimalizing. I don't know. I was
Sure.
Nothing was
Sure.
working in my head to come up to it.
Yeah, I don't... Okay. So this is the New 52 Animal Man, which... Okay, so this is like stupid DC continuity stuff. But, so, we read from the 80s run of Animal Man. That was by Grant Morrison about a month and a half ago. And in between that run and this run is about 25 years or so. About that. A little bit, maybe... Yeah, about 25 years, I think. And so... like I said, that one was written by Grant Morrison. Then DC wanted to reboot the whole DC universe, so they did this thing called the New 52, which was them like reestablishing the 52 multiverses that DC worked on or whatever. And so one of those reestablishment was the new run of Animal Man and Swamp Thing, which ties into this run of Animal Man. And Jeff Lemire was the writer on this Animal Man run. I don't know if I think he did the whole thing. I'm not sure if he did the whole thing or part of it, like a good chunk of it, but he at least went for like 30 issues, I think. So pretty solid run for comics nowadays, for sure. And one thing I loved about this, I didn't read it when it was coming out. I picked it up way after the fact, but I like read the first trade and then was like, I have to continue this to find out what happens, because it's so fucking creepy and so fucking gross with like its imagery. And they also like revamp his like origin and stuff, which is it's cool. And it's like one of the best ways to redo it, I guess. You know, like if you're gonna redo an origin, this is the way to do it. And also there's like a legacy character born in this as well. So with that being said, the first volume of this is called The Hunt, and it is written by Jeff Lemire with art by Travel Foreman. And I've never really seen any of his art before. And I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we go into it. But
Yeah, because the creep factor comes across, and that is why. Like Jeff Lemire's writing is obviously very good, but like it is very John Carpenter, The Thing-esque.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creepiness to it for sure.
Yeah. So we start off with Animal Man, and he is in his house. He's arguing with, well, not arguing. He's talking to his family.
It starts actually very similar to the last one.
Yes, I mean, I think they went on
Yeah.
purpose to like introduce the kids and the wife and the family aspect, just like the 80s one did. And so he's talking to his wife, and they're mainly just talking about like how come he's not Animal Man anymore? Like he's been on hiatus for a while. He's an actor. So the guy who is Animal Man is named Buddy Baker, and his wife is Ellen. And she doesn't necessarily want him to be a superhero. But she notices, like, oh, there's not so much pep in his step when he's not Animal Man. And then he's got, like, 10 different careers. He's like, I'm a stuntman and an actor. And there's some other one that he did, too. They say, like, all of them in a row. And it's like, wow, he's got a lot of side jobs kind of thing. So he definitely would fit into nowadays world where everybody has to have, like, 10 side hustles going on. So, so they're talking, and then the kids come in. Mainly the daughter, who's named Maxine, and she's saying she wants a puppy, but Animal Man can't have a regular house pet because, and if you didn't listen to the first Animal Man story that we did, we'll kind of re-go over his power set. Basically, he can absorb the powers or the abilities, we'll say, of any animal within the vicinity of him, like the immediate vicinity. So if there's a dog, he can bark and he can run like a dog as fast as a dog, and like his hearing gets better, his eyesight is maybe black and white, his smell gets better, all that stuff.
That'd be horrible if you automatically got all the like, not necessarily bad, but like they would definitely be detrimental to a human to
right.
get.
Well, and in this, I think because we only read the first trade of the last one, And I think that's kind of where his power set stopped, was I can become the power of a worm or whatever, and grow back my limb. But later on in that run, I believe he can like pick and choose which ones he wants from each animal that's nearby. So it's like, I have the strength of an elephant with the speed of a cheetah, and so he can kind of make himself really badass now.
Yeah.
And so that's his power set as it is in this book, is he can pick and choose any ability he wants from any animal in the near vicinity. And that comes into play sometimes. It's kind of fun because they always obviously have to get him into proximity of animals in order to have like cool fights.
Yeah.
So they do that, like they're like, oh, so we happen to appear at the zoo or whatever.
I don't remember because I don't think they reset it in here. How long does it last? Like, is it like 45 minutes or something?
It was 30 minutes in the old comic,
okay.
but they don't say in this one.
Yeah, I don't remember them saying, but just as an idea.
I don't know if there is like an established length in this one, but it's probably the same if they don't mention it. So, and then while they're talking, we see the other child come in, and his name is Cliff. He's their young son, who's like the older brother of Maxine.
Huh? I was going to say, still got a mullet for some reason.
He still looks like a little punk because in the old comic, I think they did it on purpose. Like, we want to keep him the same. He looks like what's that kid's name? Butnick from Salute Your Shorts.
Yes,
he looks exactly like that kid, but like younger, like a younger. He's probably like maybe 8 or 10, and Maxine is 4, and they say that explicitly for her. And then while they're talking, there's like a news program that's like kids, there's people kidnapped in a hospital, and there's a gunman. And so Buddy's like, I gotta go help him. And she's like, yeah, go help him. But this conversation isn't over. Like, I want to know, we're going to finish this later. And it's very, like, she doesn't kiss him on the lips when he leaves. Like, they're having an argument. Yeah. But not yelling. It's like that, like, we can't yell because the kids are here, but.
In front of the children.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to squeeze your hand really hard while we're talking. So he flies off. He's got his new costume. His old costume was like yellow and had a blue A on it. And this one is like a dark blue, and then it's got like white highlights, and there's a white A on the front of it. And so he goes to this hospital, and yes, there is a gunman inside, and it turns out the gunman was the father of a child who died in this cancer ward or whatever. And is that what it is?
Cancer, right? Okay. Yeah. And then he's back there because he's in such grief and denial. He's like, they have my daughter. Where's my daughter? Give me my daughter.
Yeah, it's like almost like a conspiracy theory thing or something. Where it's like, they're keeping her for some reason. And then Animal Man goes to the police, and they're like, hey, A-Man. I'm like, do they think his name's A-Man because he's got an A on his chest, or do they actually know it's Animal Man? And I think they know who it is. But I thought it was funny. I was like, A-Man. That's a weird.
At first I thought they were like, "Hey, I don't remember your name, man.
Yeah.
How's it going?"
Man. But so he's talking to the cop, and he knows this policeman. What's the guy's name? I don't remember what his name is, but
Sergeant Sam.
The sergeant is in charge of this crime scene, and they know each other. So he's able to talk the cop into letting him up there, even though he's like, it's a hostage situation, Animal Man. I don't know if you're really prepared for that. There's children. And he's like, no, trust me. And that's all he needs. He's like, okay, I'll trust you.
All right, then.
So Animal Man goes up there, and the guy's obviously freaking out. Of course, he's yelling. He's got a gun. And when he sees Animal Man, he grabs one of the kids, and he's got him like by the collar of the gown, because they're in the hospital for cancer. And he's like, I'll kill him. Stay back. And Animal Man is like slowly walking over to him, and that just triggers the guy. And I wasn't exactly sure about this, and maybe you remember or know, but so the guy actually shoots at Animal Man. Bam, bam, bam. And then we get a page of like Animal Man looking through anything near him, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's just because... Okay, so he's also in San Diego. We should say that. He's like a San Diego-based hero.
How convenient.
And I don't know if it's because they're close to the zoo or whatever, but there is a rhino ability there.
He just came downtown. He's running downtown.
And they don't say it explicitly, but I'm assuming because rhinoceroses have really thick skin and a bullet from a handgun isn't going to go through that is what makes it so he doesn't die or whatever, or get even shot at all. But... they don't say that explicitly. I just kind of assumed that. They don't say like, oh, thank God my rhino skin
yeah.
protected me or something, you know, or you don't see the bullets like hit and fall after you see the picture of the rhino.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of confusing at first. But then he's able to get a bunch of different animals' powers all at once. Like I said, he can be like the skin of a rhino, the strength of an elephant, the speed of a jaguar.
Well, and that's what I wasn't quite sure. I didn't get how all of the animals that were picked there helped him here, because so the dog, I guess, maybe is like to intimidate.
So there's a dog. He barks with the dog's bark, which he's like, it always scares him when I bark. And then there's like a rhino, obviously for the skin and possibly the strength. Then there's a frog, so I think he's
agility,
leaping. Agility and leaping. And then I didn't know what the other one was. It looked like a rabbit.
One looked like a koi fish, and then maybe a rabbit.
Yeah, I don't know. He's picking whatever he thinks he needs, I guess. But I just thought it was interesting. Like, how do you, like, where did he get them from? They don't say like, oh yeah, they're nearby.
Yeah, there's a koi fish in the garden downstairs
and
at the hospital.
I know it seems kind of like it might seem like old school comics to do that, but I appreciate that because that's the kind of level of like common sense detail that I can't overlook. Sometimes it annoys me that they don't do that more. Like they're just like, you'll get it, or you'll just assume, and it's like, no, I want you to tell me why a rhino is in San Diego or whatever, you know?
Yeah, like he reaches out and he's like, oh, the zoo is like just within the reach. Like he reaches the zoo and only the rhino's pen is close enough. Thank goodness that the rhino was on the edge of the zoo.
Yes.
And like
that's
little things like that.
Also, if you think about it, this is the first issue of a brand new series that people might pick up that have never read Animal Man. So you want to really establish how he gets his powers, where he's getting these animals' powers from, you know, like that kind of thing. I think was a little bit weak in this because they just assume you kind of know this character.
Some kid in an apartment happened to have a tree frog
and a rhino.
and a rhino.
There's just like a poacher with a rhino.
There's a guy that happens to live like 2 blocks from the hospital.
We're by the docks.
He just he deals in endangered and illegal pets in San Diego.
So he does save the boy. He's able to punch the bad guy in the face before he shoots anybody else. And then the police, of course, bust in soon after that. And the detective's name is Detective Crenshaw. So Crenshaw goes up to Animal Man and is like, good job. And then Animal Man turns around and Crenshaw's like, oh my God, your eyes. What is wrong with your eyes? And he's like, what? What's wrong with my eyes? And then we get a shot of his eyes just gushing blood. They're completely red as well. Like it's not just they're coming from the tear ducts. It's like blood is coming from around the eyeball and out of his eyes. So it's pretty crazy. And they're like, he's like, I don't know. It doesn't feel bad or anything. But the guy's like, we need a doctor here. It's not normal to bleed from your eyeballs. But he is good as far as everything's concerned. You know, the doctors check him out.
Yeah, I was surprised because all those animals. I thought maybe I was like, oh, maybe it's those was it the lizards that like squirt blood from their eyes or something?
They start bleeding
just
from
randomly.
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been something like that, but So Buddy goes home after that. He doesn't tell his wife that he was bleeding from his eyes, at least at first. And he goes home and he, sees his kids and he's talking about, oh, I love them. They're so peaceful sleeping. And Maxine, she's so little and strong and awesome. And Cliff, he's a good kid, but he got an attitude, but it's awesome too. And I love him. And then he goes into bed with his wife and he falls asleep and he has a crazy dream where Cliff is trying to tell his dad that we got to hurry. They're coming for us. We got to hurry before she finds us. And there's people after us and basically we got to run. And it's like they're surrounded by all these trees and roots and then Cliff gets cut open in his abdomen. He's like, Dad, help me. What's going on? And then it's just like a crazy dream where everybody's in jeopardy and Buddy feels like he has to save Cliff. And then it turns out that Cliff, the she he was talking about was Maxine. And Maxine looks like she starts walking up and she has like a little baby costume version of the Animal Man suit. And she's like, Daddy, it's time to go. And her face looks all fucked up on one side. It's kind of creepy and weird looking. And then there's like a giant like avatar animal behind her. So it's creepy. She leads him because of course, like if you're in a dream, either you're just going to run from her, or it's going to be like turn into a different kind of dream.
Yeah.
And then, I'll follow her. And so he follows her into this river of blood. And then it's just supposed to signify like something interesting is happening. Something is now, they're throwing in some lore in this dream that will kind of change Buddy Baker as we know him. And so he wakes up the second that these three things appear, these three monsters. And they're like, they look like animals, but they also look like they're rotted. Like they have like skeleton face and flesh rotting from areas and insect heads and stuff. So they look different than the regular animals that we saw earlier. And they're like, they're talking to Buddy, and they're like, "We are flesh made sickness. We are your children's true fathers, the Hunters 3." So we get like the introduction of the main bad guys for the story arc. They're called the Hunters 3. Like I said, there's 3 of them. They all have pretty gross, distinct bodies that look like monsters from The Thing, like you said earlier.
Yeah, very much so. Like one is kind of like you said, kind of buggish. He kind of looks like his face has got like
a praying mantis or something.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of teeth on it. One of them kind of looks like a gorilla face, but like with
a skull, like a gorilla skull.
Skull, exactly, with like just flesh.
And the other one just kind of looks like an amorphous jumble of animals.
Blob,
not like a blob. It's got legs and stuff, but it looks like if you took a bunch of animal toys and just like melted them together. There's not really a face in there that you can really see. And then Buddy wakes up. He's like, "What the fuck was that?" And then he sees his wife's gone. He goes downstairs, to see what happened because he just had that weird dream. And as he runs out the door, we see Ellen and Cliff are looking at something in the lawn. We don't know what it is. And we see that, or they're looking at Maxine, who is playing with a bunch of dead animals that are now alive again. So she has made pets for herself out of dead animals in the neighborhood.
Yeah, basically everybody who buried their dead pets around, and it's like a bird, there's dogs, there's cats, there's like a fish, maybe like a squirrel or something.
Yeah.
All of these dead animals that have been buried, and at different states too. There's some that are fully boned and some that are like rotting still. Yeah. But all of them are coming to like she's like Ace Ventura or something, but with dead animals.
Yes, and she's like, "I'm sorry, Daddy, I just wanted a pet of my own." So yeah, because I don't think I said it earlier, but he can't have a pet in the house that's like their family pet because he will like his animal power will bond with it too hard, and then he won't be able to transition into the other animal aspects when he's out away from the house. Like it'll be like if you like lived in a house with a scent that was super scented or something, and you go outside and you're like, I can't smell anything.
Yeah.
Like my senses have been burned. Like, it's only that thing. So that's kind of what it is. And that's the end of issue 1. We start issue 2 right where we left off, where the daughter's like, "These are my new pets," and everybody's like, "What the fuck? Like, you need to put them back now." And it turns out that she is the an avatar of the green. I'm not of the green, of the red. That is like what this is all about. We don't really know what the red is, but we kind of got a hint of it in that dream, like that river of blood, those trees that are kind of living off that river of blood. It's very taken from Swamp Thing, if you've ever read any of that or listened to my Matt's Minis, where Swamp Thing is the avatar or the elemental of, or the protector of, the green, which is like all plant life on Earth. And the red is another realm that is all mammal or not mammal, all life on the planet. So anything that's like meat.
Like living tissue.
Yeah, living tissue. There you go. So as Buddy and Maxine are talking, she says, "We need to find this place. We need to get out of here because I'm being called from the place." And he's like, "What place are you talking about?" And then all of a sudden he has kind of like an attack, much like his eyes earlier, where all of a sudden like he starts bleeding from the eyes again, but he's bleeding from his nose, his mouth, his ears. And then like he gets this weird tree image and the blood on his chest, but it doesn't wash off. Like it won't go away. It's almost like emblazoned in his skin or something, but it doesn't hurt. And his wife's like, "What the fuck? Like, Buddy." And Maxine's like, "This place, that's the place." And like points to a part on his chest. So like she's aware of this thing that's going on.
Yeah, I guess she's had these same, similar visions or something.
Yeah, and we find out that, she's been having dreams where she's been going to this place that is the red, and she's been talking to the avatars of the red.
The red is real.
Yeah, the red is real. And then they're still stuck with these animals that are like half alive, or they're alive, but they're like completely decayed and skeletons and stuff. So they're treating them like pets. But Buddy's like, Cliff, go bury them, like, or dig holes or something. You know, we're gonna have to get rid of them sooner or later. We can't have like dead animals walking around the house. So the way that they discover that Maxine has been doing this and going to the red in her dreams, and she's actually very powerful, even though she's young. For her age, she's a very powerful avatar of the red already. And we find that out because while Cliff's outside digging holes, one of the neighbors is like, "What the fuck are you doing in my yard?" Because I guess he was like going to bury it. You know, it was the neighbor's pet. So he's like, "I'm going to bury it in the neighbor's yard." The neighbor gets mad and is like, "Oh, I'm going to like hit you, kid." And Maxine runs out and I guess to help him, turns the man's arm into like a bird claw. And it seems like it hurts. Like it's not just scary to him, but he's in pain.
It looks like he's in pain.
Yeah, and it looks like a chicken foot or something, you know? And he's freaked out, of course. And we've never seen Animal Man do anything close to that. Like all he can do is take the abilities for 30 minutes and use them. Apparently she can like manifest any living tissue into whatever she wants, kind of thing. Like she can transform it. So that's how we find out, like, oh, she's really, really powerful. And then in order to kind of follow up on that, Buddy takes Maxine to the place to find
to the red. Basically, they determine like what's on his body is not only like showing the red, but it's like a map to like where they need to go.
Yes, that's why she pointed to it and was like, "Oh, here." So she's gonna show Buddy how to get into the red. And then we cut to the San Diego Zoo where all these animals are freaking out for some reason. And someone runs up to one of the keepers there and is like, "The hippos, quick. Something's wrong. I think they're pregnant." And it's like, "But there's no males. It's only females there or whatever." So they go to the hippo exhibit and you see the 3 hippos in a lot of pain and their stomachs are very, very distended. And they look like they're not having fun. And as the zookeepers, is that what we call them?
Yeah.
Zookeepers are looking at them. We cut back to Animal Man who's being led by Maxine through the red. And we're getting all this, like, exactly what's going on, like the breakdown of what the red is, how it goes through all life everywhere. But there is something wrong with the red. There's, like, something infecting it or whatever that we're not sure what it is. And where they go is like a literal tree. It's like a red tree. And Buddy's like, "Well, how come no one else, like, isn't someone going to see this?" And she's like, "No, it's like only we can see it because we're the avatars." So that's kind of how they get around. And then they get sucked into the tree. And that's like where the proper red is. Because if you look at, or if you know Swamp Thing, he just literally like falls out of his body. Like his consciousness leaves his body, goes into the earth, which is the green. And like, he travels in that realm that's like in between, real life and the green or whatever. So it's similar to that, except there's like a literal, I guess, instead of like, it'd be like the earth is this tree basically for them.
Yeah.
So the earth and Swamp Thing is the tree in this.
You could say it's like a red dimension within Earth, right?
I guess. Yeah, that's what you'd call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just like, like just different.
But they can see it, and then there's also a dimension inside of it that is the actual red or whatever. And then, so they get sucked inside of that, and she's like, let me take you to the elders, I guess, or the, in Swamp Thing, it's called the Parliament of Trees. Yeah. But
in this one that we found out they're the elder totems.
Yeah, the totems of the animals. Yeah. And so then we cut back to the zoo and we see the hippos have given birth to these horrifying monsters known as the Hunters 3, and they're gigantic. And they kill the men that were there, the zookeepers, and they are able to, once they kill something or feed off of them, assume the form of those people. And you were saying that this is like one of the more interesting parts of this where the art's very cool. It really, really, really captures like the Men in Black Edgar suit feel.
But sure, they basically become skinwalkers, and so they're inside of the like human looking creatures that or the human people that they fed off of, but they're like not quite okay. And then like you could see like at times there's like parts of them pushing out of their human like skin-esque thing.
And they have a limited time frame that they can stay there.
Yeah,
unless they're feeding on the person during it. So like, if they eat, they'll eat like an arm, and then they can transform, and then they can maybe last 20 minutes in that form until they start to fall apart again. Then they might eat the other arm, and then they can stay for 20 more minutes, kind of thing. So they have to keep the people they're transforming in alive, which they didn't with these ones.
Yeah.
So while Buddy and Maxine are still in the red, these people are like, we need to find this Maxine. We know she's like the key to the red and us invading it and like taking over it. And they don't. I don't know if they explain exactly what they are now, but
they say that they are the rot.
Yeah, they are the rot, which makes sense. If you have life, then it's going to rot, and one thing that goes on later on in this run is they start talking about like the like togetherness of those three things. You have the grain, which is plant life. Then you have animal life, which is the red. Then you have the rot, which eats both of those things, which ends up being food for the green, to the red, and so it's like a circle of life. It's a balance thing, and each side has at one point in time gotten too much power, and the other two have to battle it, like to take it back down, and then they're okay again, and then another one will get too powerful. So they talk about that a couple times. Like this time, the rot is getting too powerful, and the green and the red have to team up. But they don't talk about that in this trade, but that's like a little cool thing later on that they talk about that I really liked, because up until this point, I don't think there was ever like any more like realms other like than the green. Like I don't think there was ever. Oh yeah, there's a red, and now there's like 20 of them. Like they just went ham after this. But like like literally in this run of Swamp Thing, like after the Jeff Lemire Scott Snyder crossover. Scott Snyder stopped writing it, and then Charles Soule made like a bunch of other ones. Oh no, I will take that back. There was the gray, which was like fungus realm. So that's in the Swamp Thing run from the 80s. So that's where I'm at now on Matt's Minis, if you want to listen to that. But we're going into all the gray and that realm. So these three hunters from the rot, they know they have to kill Maxine because, she's the avatar of the red and also the most powerful avatar, so they must stop her. And they get to the house and they realize, oh, she's not here, but the mom, Ellen, and Cliff are there. And so they're like, well, do we do anything? And they're like, yeah, we should kill her because she's the womb that birthed Maxine. So maybe she could make another one if we kill Maxine and leave her be. So they decide, yes, we have to kill her. And they transform from their humans into their big monsters again. And I thought this was funny. As they approach, they knock on the door. When she answers, it's like, excuse me, like, but like it's very obviously like something's wrong with this fucking guy. There's like weird tentacles coming out of his face and shit. Then we cut back to the red where we meet the totems, and Buddy's finally like understanding where his powers come from, what they mean, like that his daughter is like the next legacy character, and she is an avatar that's more powerful, and actually she's a real avatar of the red. There hasn't been one for a long time, and Buddy's just been like I guess or preordained to be the protector of the next avatar.
Yeah, they call him like an agent of the red basically. Yeah, he is a protector, and which is interesting. Yeah, because he thought this whole entire time that he is like he not necessarily of the red, but like that he is
like the animal man.
The animal man.
He just thought, oh, Maxine's going to be the next animal man. It's just powers passed on from daughter or father to daughter. And
but that is not to be.
Yeah, that is not to be. It turns out he isn't really anything special other than he's like Buffy's watcher or something. Like like he's like that, but with Maxine. And he's got, he's got the basic set of powers, but she could do so much more. She could, like we saw earlier, she could transform flesh like without even touching it or anything. So that's pretty cool. And also we find out like his origin story, that he was, if you don't know, in the 80s run, I don't remember if Grant Morrison came up with this or if this was just given to him and he made it cooler, but still didn't change it too much. But basically, in the 80s run, Animal Man's powers come from him being abducted by aliens and getting this, like, what do they call it? Like some kind of field. It was like a weird field they put in him, or like a field that he was able to manipulate after they did something to him medically. And so that's what he thought the Animal Man powers were. But it turns out
they just made it him. Basically, that was what they made it him think.
Yeah, the totems appeared as these aliens.
So his mind could comprehend it at the time.
Right. Because obviously he didn't have Maxine then.
Yeah.
It would have been like, your daughter. And like, what? Like, I don't have a kid. So then we see we cut into the house where once Ellen answers the door, the monster's sitting right there. He's like, hello, Miss Baker. And then like bursts through the door. They're on the run, freaking out. Also, at the same time, that's just one of them that went to go kill Ellen and the kid. The other two went to go into the red and kill Maxine and Buddy. So right as he's discovering all these, new information about his powers and Maxine and everything, these two agents from the Rot, these two of the Hunters 3, attack them in the red. And we're getting like a back and forth between what's going on in the house and what's going on in the red. And, Maxine or Ellen and Cliff are not superpowered. They're just regular humans, and they're doing their best to fight this thing off. But luckily, there's all these dead animals that Maxine rose from the dead, and they're on her side. You would think maybe they'd be on the Rot side because they're dead and they've rotted. But I guess maybe because they were rose from Maxine, from the red's power, they are on the side of the red. So they all start attacking this one monster. And that gives Ellen enough time with Cliff to get into a car and get out of there. And then we cut back to Buddy and Maxine. And Buddy is punching that the one that looks like a gorilla in the face. And he's fighting them. And I don't know. I can't remember why Maxine isn't able to help. I think, is it like they got cut off somehow or something?
I think it's just because she's not quite like, she's still learning how to do things, so she's not quite. Yeah. Because she is going to.
Yeah, and she's 4.
Yeah.
So like that's why she doesn't quite grasp how to. It's kind of like Gohan when he's got a lot of power, but like
I can't do it.
Yeah, he just doesn't. He's not aware how to transform it or like channel it into the right ways.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. He's Gohan, or she's Gohan, basically.
Yeah.
So we find out that Ellen and Cliff are heading to her mom's house, which is in the middle of the country somewhere. And that's where she and Buddy always talked about, like, if anything bad happens, just go there. No one knows where she lives, I guess, that would, follow us. Because also everybody knows who Animal Man is. They know that Buddy is an actor / stuntman who is also the superhero Animal Man.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you're putting your family in danger a bit there. So they knew this might happen, but it hasn't happened so far. And also earlier, I don't remember when it was, but at some point in this comic, Buddy told his wife, like, hey, if anything ever happens, I think maybe when he left to go to the red with Maxine, he said, like, call Crenshaw. Here's his number, which is the detective from earlier. So now that they're on the run, she's like, shit's going on. So
I'm going to call him.
Yeah, she calls Crenshaw, tells him, oh, I'm going to be at my mom's house. Can you come help us? Something bad's happening. And he does. And then we come back to the red where the fight is still continuing. Maxine is just watching in fear at the moment. And this was like a great scene, I thought. Like a weird, very weird art. Like this must have been really fun to draw because you don't have to stick to any anatomy that is normal. So for Buddy, he starts transforming into some sort of ape-ish person, but he looks a lot like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You remember that movie, John?
Oh, with the Sean Connery one?
Yes.
Yes, he does, like Mr. Hyde.
Yes, he does look like Mr. Hyde from that movie and from the comic. I mean, the comic was pretty straightforward, too. The movie is terrible, but
the comic was good.
The comic is great. I mean, it's Alan Moore fantastic. So, but yeah, he looks like that character, Mr. Hyde, from that. So he's got super long, kind of apish arms, and his head and his neck kind of connect into one unit together.
He could say, yeah, he has no neck now.
Yeah,
He just-
he's got a bit Cro-Magnon, you know.
yeah.
In his face. And then he ends up getting bit by one of these guys, and it turns out like he's losing. Like, you know, I don't know if that was poison bite or something, but it's just he's weakening. You know, he doesn't have infinite powers.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite panels because they're fighting, and when the one bites him, you hear Maxine's like, "No, Daddy, no," and the rock creature's is like, "Daddy, yes."
Yes. That was a great use there. And
Yeah.
then, so the detective then shows up at the hotel where Ellen was staying at with Cliff. And as he's getting out of his car, I guess, you know, they were followed because I guess they can be tracked, you know,
Yeah.
like they're part of the red and the rot can feel them or whatever. So it has been tracking her at this motel. And before the detective can get to the room, all of a sudden, some tentacles and tendrils come out of nowhere and grab him by the face. And then the one that they fought off and got away for a second in the house is there, and he takes over the body of the
He
detective.
becomes an Edgar suit.
Yeah. Sugar, water. I need sugar.
Sugar and water.
Yeah. It was an Edgar suit.
Edgar suit.
Yeah. So he walks in and he's like, Miss Baker. Like it's so weird. They do draw him like slightly off the entire time. He's also like being followed by flies, like surrounded by flies.
Yeah, that's a nice little touch.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just everything looks slightly off kilter in his appearance.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because we know or if because he actually drew him like with like a slightly larger eye or slightly like slipping skin where it shouldn't be, you know, off the bone.
Yeah, I'm sure that's I mean, it looks it looks so creepy and cool.
It really does. So, you know, he's like, I'm here to help you. And then so they go. They leave together with
You look a little off, but that's fine.
Sure. I mean, hey, I'm sure you sit in that room eating donuts all day. So, you know, the flies make sense, you know. So they're driving and she's, you know, telling him what's going on, and she doesn't know everything with the red, luckily, but she's telling him enough like, oh, this is where my mom lives, and this is, you know. So you know, tell him too much information for what he is and what we know. We also see that he has the body, the unconscious body, I guess, of the detective. So the detective is still alive at this moment. He's just eaten a piece of him in order to, you know, take his form.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to the fight going on with Buddy and the other two elementals of the rot. And they're like biting him. They're tearing him apart. They're scratching at his flesh. And this is where Maxine finally like comes into play because, you know, the anger. It's just like Gohan. The anger channels. And she's like, you get away from my daddy, which is literally a sentence that Gohan has said. And she just goes like, bah! And does like a Kamehameha, basically. And no, she just like blows them away from the realm of the red. She like kicks them out, basically. There's like a force push, an intense force push.
Yeah, and when we find out that basically when they're in here, especially her, like her powers are like
it's like the center of her power. So
she's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and so he's like, oh my god, where did they go? You know, he's all out of it, but he passes out because, you know, at first she's like, yeah, I did it, but you know, he's pretty tore up. So he's got like a big gash in his arm and everything. And this is one thing I really liked is we see another power of hers where she takes the cut on either side, like the flesh is flayed open, and she can like mold it like putty and reclose it up because one, she's in the power center of the red, and two, she's like extremely powerful in that aspect. So like, and that's something Buddy could never do before.
Yeah.
The best he could do is grow back his arm after.
Yeah, I feel there's an earthworm beneath me. Okay, and then
earthworms can grow back their pieces or whatever. So, then we cut to the mom's house with Ellen and Cliff and the detective, and the mom goes inside to talk to the mom, or to talk to her. Ellen goes inside to talk to her mom, and Cliff is outside with the detective. And the detective is getting more and more like trying to hold it in, you know, his shape is not working right. And then all of a sudden, Cliff hears a thump coming out of the trunk. So obviously the detective is woken up and is banging. And right as Cliff turns to look at the sound, like see where it's coming from, you see the face of the detective open up and the tentacles start coming out towards Cliff from behind. Then we come back to the red where now that Buddy has been healed, he's like, what are we going to do? And also he realizes, and I guess maybe, I don't remember how they know. I think Maxine tells him, Mommy and Cliff are super scared. Something's wrong with them. We have to go back and help them. So, but he's like, oh shit, like I didn't even think about that. But yeah, we have to go fight for them too. You know, they're by themselves and they're not super powered. So the totems that are there's like what 3 or 4 totems that are there that are talking to them, and they have cool designs too. They're like different sizes, but one looks more cat-like. One looks like it has like elephant tusks coming out. There's interesting designs for these characters, for sure. I don't know. I liked them a lot. And they're talking to him, and one of them decides that they want to help. You know, this whole mission. It's the one that looks like a cat, so it transforms back into like its cat body, and is like, "I will go with you." And the totems are like, "You cannot come back if you make this decision. Like, once you leave our realm, you're a cat forever. Even though you'll be able to like talk and you'll have all the knowledge of the totem and everything." And he's like, "Okay, that's fine. I'll do that."
Yeah, but I mean, basically, like, I feel like I need to help control and understand her powers, and it's cute, you know. So it forms, like you said, it back into cat. It kind of looks like one of the Sphinx cats.
Yeah, it's like a hairless cat.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I thought it was funny too. She was like, "What are we gonna call you?" And he's like, "Well, my human name was Socks, but I prefer like Artemis or whatever you said, like some like Horatio or whatever." And she's like, "I like Socks better." So she like makes him name Socks, which was fun. And then we cut back to Ellen and her mom, and they're talking at the dinner table. But then she like sees out behind the mom that the car is by itself. Cliff is gone. So is the detective, and the trunk is open for some reason. And then we cut to the woods outside of the grandma's house, where the Edgar suit detective is now has the real detective by the throat, and Cliff. And the way that they draw this Edgar suit detective is like the head of it is, I don't know, 8 times bigger than a regular sized person's head now. Yeah. It's all distended in different areas. It looks like just a creepy fucking Mr. Potato Head or something.
That's perfect.
Like if you took the eyes and nose and everything of a Mr. Potato Head, but put it on a real potato, like an odd shaped potato or something.
It looks like something you would draw if you were drawing like a political cartoon, but and then in the real world.
But you really wanted it to be insulting.
Yeah.
So so it's like, okay, I'm going to kill you people, and then I'll get Maxine, and she'll bring her father, and forever you'll all be one with me in the rot, and it'll be great. And so he's about to eat the detective more because he's like, oh, I want to like feed more. They seem to get hungry fairly often, you know, and so he feeds more on the detective. It's super creepy. Later on, we find out that like he just ate the bottom half of the detective, and the detective was alive. So like,
yeah, he's been alive the whole time.
Yeah, until now, where the bottom half of is just hanging, intestines are just hanging out underneath him from his torso, which is super fucking messed up. So then we cut back to the mom, who is now looking around for Cliff and realizing something's wrong. She goes to the barn. She gets a shotgun, as you do, and she's ready for some fighting. Then we see Buddy and Maxine have left the red now with Socks and Socks the cat. And they go back to their house, and they're like, oh, shit, like, they're not here anymore. But they're still scared, so we need to find them. And Buddy's like, oh, wait a second. We talked, and we said if we ever went anywhere, or if anything bad happens, we'll go to Grandma's house. So that's where they must be. So he just assumes that. Good idea, you know. Usually, I always imagine, like, you're like, where the fuck are they? And you just never think of the place you said. I could see that happening. That happened to me once when I was a child. When I went to Disneyland with my parents, and they said, if you get lost at Disneyland, go to the benches in front of the castle and just wait there. We'll come get you. And I got lost for like 2 hours at Disneyland. And I went to the benches and waited for what seemed like an hour, but was probably 10 minutes. And they never came there. They were just looking around the area that they thought I was at. And it was like, I went to the benches and you didn't show up. So I continued to walk, and I ended up going into It's a Small World area and found a employee of Disneyland and was like, I am lost. Help me find my parents. They were in Toontown. And then we went there and we found them right away. And I got in trouble somehow. I don't know how I got in trouble. I found them.
You did all the correct. You weren't supposed to. They didn't come, so you went and found an adult. There's someone of authority there to help you, and then they're like, "How dare you?"
Yes, exactly. You lost. You got lost. I'm 6. I'm 6. You're you're supposed to be responsible, not me. Anyway, so so we cut back to the mom who is running through the woods with the shotgun, which is not advisable, but she's ready to fight, she's looking for her kid. And then she comes into the clearing where the monster is now like snacking on the detective. And we see him like literally pulling the intestines in the lower half off the detective like spaghetti noodles. It's fucking creepy. And then Cliff is sitting there like crying. He doesn't know what to do. And then the next issue starts right where we left off, and she's shooting at the monster. Takes a good shot. She has a pocket full of shells.
Pocket full of shells. Yeah.
Nice. running around the forest, pocket full of shells. And so it sees her, and it's like, bad mommy, bad, hungry, so hungry, and it tries to attack her. And then luckily, Buddy, I don't know, she could fight it off long enough because Buddy does show up. I don't know, like, how fast can he fucking fly? Because they were in...
I don't know, as fast as what animals nearby.
Yeah, I don't know. But, I mean... I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like close enough. But they said it was like the country or whatever. You know, like in California. I don't know. It looks like it's in the mountains, like Tahoe or something.
A couple hours away.
Yeah, like at least a couple hours away. It's the Sequoia Mountains, which is in the middle of California. It's like a 5-hour drive or something.
An hour as the crow flies.
Yeah, not through Los Angeles. That's an 8-hour drive. But yeah, so they land in the forest. They land at the house, talk to the grandma. Grandma's like, they went that way. The thing took Clifford. And so the dad, Buddy's, he's on it. He's got Socks. And he tells him, like, Socks is following. He tells him, back off. It's my kid. I got to save him or whatever. So he's running. And luckily, I mean, I guess he can run fast because the thing is attacking the mom, but it's not like tearing her apart. It's more like trying to freak her out, kind of playing with its food a bit.
Yeah.
It's sticking its tentacles up her nose and messing with her face. And then like Cliff here, he comes out, he pulls one out of the park, or he hits one out of the park. He shoots with the shotgun, he blows that thing's head off. I mean, it doesn't kill it forever, but it's a pretty good shot. Yeah. And I mean, he could have killed his mom, so surprisingly, he's a good shot.
The head of it is just big enough to catch all of the
buckshot.
Yeah,
they're close enough. I mean, they're like, he's probably 10 yards away. But
yeah,
it's a big enough head that it would be fine with that. But and then right as he's about to like get attacked because that thing's like, how dare you? You're next, boy. Buddy comes in and he's fucking pissed. He's like, how dare you? I'll kill you. You hurt my family. Like, he's punching him over and over. But this thing is not going to go down easy. Buddy is no longer in the red, which is also his place of power. Like he went more crazy than he ever has on Earth in the red. So like that's why his body was like transforming even. And I don't think he transforms on Earth. I've never seen him.
Not, yeah, at least not anymore here. But he's I guess he's getting powers from what animals are nearby, like
normal. But in the red, he was actually turning into an ape.
Yeah, or
like had that similar kind of body type, like his form morphed or whatever. But that doesn't happen here. And that fight, as he's fighting with the monster, it allows his family to escape, get back to the mom's house, and the rot Buddy is losing. The rot is grabbing him by the face and the body, and he's like, the rot will get into you and corrupt you and everything. And you can see Buddy's face just like, it's not rotting. It looks like he's getting elephantitis or something.
I thought it made me think like he's making him bloat or something.
Yeah, like maybe his cells are exploding and rotting in his face or something. And it's like, making all these weird cysts and creepy shit in his face. And it's like, shh, quiet, let go. And Buddy's like, what? And then this move was really cool, I thought. That puts Buddy in like a weird dream state for a second. Like the rot is showing him the future to be.
Yes.
And what he sees is a very, very, very creepy interpretation of Maxine. She is half body, like half upper body, torso, half lower body spider.
Yes.
And she is like, ooh, father. Like she's super creepy, super weird. I don't know, the art in this, when they're in these weird, creepy realms, like the art is super like stringy, like
super
thin lines, like really pointed stuff. It just makes it way creepier to me.
It kind of reminded me. It's like a cross between some not because that art was also it was stylized, but then it was also on the from 30 Days a Night.
Okay, yeah.
Like I because I know that art was also painted.
Yeah, Ben Templesmith.
But I just mean like the way that the creatures are like you said, kind of like stringy and like pulled apart.
Yeah,
like some kind of like a cross between that and like Tim Burton a little.
Yeah, or even I would say kind of like Junji Ito. Like a lot of his stuff is very like thin line because he's so so precise.
Yes,
and a lot of it has that feel to it.
That's it. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. It is better. You're right, John. So, anyway, he has this fucked up dream where he sees what will actually happen to his daughter, what the rot is trying to do, and that kind of wakes him up. And luckily, I don't know why exactly, but I guess it just wanted to freak Buddy out. Like this thing likes to play with its food a lot. I'm assuming because it throws Buddy on the ground, pulls him out of that dream state, and then it's like, I'm so hungry, and then like it has the body of the detective, and it starts hitting Buddy with the body, which is gross and weird. Like, once again, it's like clinging onto the intestines and spine and the lower, I guess the lower torso area.
And then using it like a baton or something.
Yeah.
Stay down, Buddy.
And so Maxine, knowing Dad's in danger, she gets an idea. She's like, wait, I know what I can do. I will like put my hands to the ground, which this is the only thing I'm like, oh, you know what? I missed this. This is why I missed this, I guess. So I thought she was using the earth as a conduit, but she's not. She's just talking to the ants below in the ground. I didn't see the ants in the tunnels. I thought that was like roots.
Oh, root conduit?
Yeah. I'm just too used to Swamp Thing where it's like roots everywhere. But yeah, I was like, how can the red use the earth to like talk or whatever? That's weird. But anyway, she does like the Animal Man thing where she knows what animals are in the near vicinity, but she like possesses them and makes them part of the red as warriors, and they all head to the fight scene and begin to attack the monster. And the ants are crawling up the legs of this thing. Foxes, bears, raccoons, all these animals come out of the woods and start attacking it and eating it. And at first that seems like a good idea. Like, fuck yeah. Fuck you, you stupid monster.
Yeah.
But then, and one of my favorite twists of all time, they eat the monster, and then all of a sudden it's like all the animals are like, one of us. Like all of a sudden it becomes like, oh, they ingested the rot, and now the rot has corrupted not just the animals, but it is in the red because they were possessed by the red at that time.
Yep.
So now it's like it's kind of like a disease that's spreading. It can actually spread a plague of the rot
within the red
with the animals, though. It shows like one scene I was like, John's gonna be upset by this, but when they were running, the grandma is like, oh my god, my dog, I left old Duke at the house or whatever, and then we see the dog like laying there like sad that his he got left or whatever, and then you see a fly that has red eyes, so it's possessed by the rot, and it flies into the dog's ear, and then you see the dog be like and then it's like, now it's possessed, and it's super fucked up. Like, basically, it can spread like a plague across all of the world, and the rot will overtake all of life.
It very much reminded me of this sounds a little silly because this is much darker, but the woodland critters from South Park, where they're all like happy and everything's fine, and like they were helping and they were attacking, and they're like, wait a minute, and then all their eyes go red.
Yes,
like, no, we're gonna eat you.
Sacrifice.
Orgy.
Blood orgy. Yeah. So Buddy and the rest of the family get in a RV that the grandma had, and they drive away. And this is where like the grandma says, "Put the dog," and then they're like, "He's gone.
He's gone."
Grandpa. It's like, oh no, he's gone. But yeah, so they're crying, and this was this part I was like, John's gonna have a problem. They show the dog like freaking out. He sees the other animals that are like plagued or whatever by the rot, and it's barking like, "Arf, arf, you stay away. This is my house. My master's gonna like be mad if you're here." And then you see a fly go into the dog's ear, and then it gets possessed.
Yeah.
and then now it's following the RV, this gaggle of monster animals that are possessed by the rot. They're all I guess, infected with the rot.
Yeah.
And they're going to spread this plague across the earth. So, and that is pretty much how it ends.
And only one thing can help them now.
Yes.
This is the last little, like...
That is the best thing about this, I think. As a major Swamp Thing fan. They're like, the only thing that can help us now is Swamp Thing. And that's how it ends. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, and I would say, these two together, if you read, Animal Man, Swamp Thing, or whatever the order is, I can't remember what the order is. But, if you read them in tandem, it's a very, very good arc together. It's almost like they should just put like them together as one volume.
That would be cool if you had like one when they have crossover stories like that. Yeah, just interweave them.
Well, they do. The problem is this isn't crossover like enough with it. There's actually, I think, only 3 or 2 issues that actually cross over where it's like part 1, part 2 is in Animal Man, part 3 is in Swamp Thing.
Well, they need to put together anyway.
But I read them in tandem because I was like, well, that's obviously how I would pick them up monthly. So, I want to know what's going on. And they're close enough that what's going on in Swamp Thing is relating to what's going on in Animal Man. They talk about the rot, and there is an avatar of the rot that's actually like the actual avatar. These Hunters 3 are not like the Swamp Thing or the Maxine of the rot. They're just kind of like buddies or whatever. Yeah. They're like the
it's like Cerebus or like
the Guardians creatures. Are just monsters that are in that realm that are like the top monsters.
Yeah, the bad guys always have like extra monsters that are like within their control as well. So
yeah. Do you want me to spoil who the rot avatar is?
We'll give you a second because I do want to know because I have my thoughts on this comic overall, and so I do want to know because I kind of want to I need more of the story.
Okay. So
spoilers now.
Yeah, spoilers now. 3, 2, 1. Get out of here if you don't want to hear it. Jump to probably like 15 seconds ahead or whatever. But the avatar of the rot is Abby Arcane.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool tie back from Swamp Thing to pull it all in.
Yes.
That's fun.
And we're back. So you did so the spoilers are over. So and that character that I mentioned is you can read them in Swamp Thing. That's where they're from. So yeah, check that out. But definitely check this run out. I mean, if you read them in tandem, or if you just read the Swamp Thing run and this run together, they go very well together. It's like one of the best crossovers. That's not fully a crossover until like issue 16 or 17, where they like literally Rot World Part 1, Rot World Part 2. They swap comics and they're in each other's comics together. But in this, they mention Swamp Thing.
I mean, this to me, honestly. This feels like this could be like a crisis level event that
yes,
like why?
I'll say this in Rot World, which is the name of the big like once all the I'll spoil a little bit of this comic run. So obviously the rot is a plague and it travels the world. And Alec and Animal Man trying to fight it and stuff, but eventually it does take over the world, and they have to fight it with some of the other heroes taken over by the rot and everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And that's where you get like, I don't know if you've seen the toy where Swamp Thing has like bark armor and wings.
Wings,
around.
Yeah, and he's got like stag
like
horns,
a crown.
Kinda,
yeah. That's what that's from. Like,
oh, okay, that's cool.
Because he's like, I am Warrior Swamp Thing. Like,
that's pretty badass.
Yeah. So it's a fantastic.
Do you like that run? Because I know you're picky with your Swamp Thing.
So it's not my favorite run. I mean, obviously, you're never gonna get better than Alan Moore.
Yeah.
I really like the stuff after Alan Moore, the Rick Veitch, and now the Doug Wheeler stuff. So far, I'm liking that more than that run, but only because it's like a reboot. So it's kind of like we're going over some of the same material just to get people familiar with the Swamp Thing lore. And then it's a little bit different, like enough that I'm like, I don't know about that. It'd be like if they rebooted Star Wars like completely, and they're like, it's John Solo, and you're like,
yeah. Wait, what?
Wait, it's Han Solo. And you're like, what? Like, I don't know about that. And he's like not quite as edgy as he was, or you know what I mean? Like you're always gonna judge it based on the original stuff. So I mean, it is good, and especially with this run next to it, and they're together, it's fantastic as like a full arc together. This. Specifically, Animal Man gets super fucked up. Like one of the best horror comics that I've read. Like I was like terrified as reading it. I was like, oh my God. Like when shit happens, because it does not necessarily go good for everybody.
Oh, nice.
They don't, Jeff Lemire doesn't pull any punches with this family and who may or may not live or die. So
that's cool. I'm appreciative of things like that.
yeah, they do. Yeah, that. And then at the end, they kind of do like not it was all a dream, but like they wrap it up to where it's like, and some of the stuff went back to where it was. But before that, it was like, oh my God, they did that. Like, it's super fucked up. So it's pretty awesome. I was into it. Even the wrap up where it's like, not like I said, it's not like it's a dream, but they do set back kind of what it was before. For the most part. I mean, they keep some things in that are like, whoa, that was. So it actually has some weight to it. Yeah. But like they do reset, so like Superman is not a plague zombie or whatever, like so yeah, I think as a whole it's like one of the best like horror comics I've ever read as a run, and especially because it's like in DC continuity, which is weird too, and I don't know, it was pretty fucking awesome. So nice. And then there's an issue that doesn't really have anything to do with this story arc. I mean, it continues the story arc, but it was kind of there to flesh out the character in the next story arc that's important, which is Cliff. And the issue is just him watching a movie on his iPhone, and the movie is starring his dad, Buddy, because like we said, he's an actor. And the story is about like kind of like Kick-Ass, where it's like a guy who's a superhero in the real world, so he's kind of like just a vigilante that wears a shittily fitting suit. Yeah, and he goes and beats up bad guys, but he's also like a shitty deadbeat dad or whatever. So like, it's like Cliff. It's kind of, you could tell like, oh, this is how I feel about my dad. Like my dad doesn't pay enough attention to me. Just like this kid doesn't get, his dad paying attention to him. And then also the dad gets like the shit beat out of him and all this stuff. And it's kind of like, oh, like, is he worried about his dad, or does he think like, yeah, you should get the shit beat out of you kind of thing?
Yeah, it's weird because he has a couple moments. I'll just say throughout, like in the beginning, Cliff's like, yeah, like that's cool. You're going to do some superhero stuff, Dad. Like, when can I come with you? And he's like, no, I don't want you to get hurt and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like, okay, I guess. Yeah. And then, there's a little bit of back and forth that's seeded throughout this comic as well with Cliff. So that was like, I see why they put it in there, but like,
it leads for the next story arc well, but should be trade too.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it didn't add anything to this.
Yeah, because after that movie's over, it's just Buddy being like, hey, turn your phone off. What are you doing up or whatever?
Yeah,
like,
they're still in the RV driving.
Yeah. There was nothing that pushes this story forward. It was just like a character building moment for his son, which, like I said, comes into play in the next trade, which gets fucked up. I'll say that. Okay. Some fucked up shit happens throughout the probably through issue 20 of this run is like every arc is like, what the fuck? Like, it's just so messed up. It's fantastic. If you like horror, and I would say like I said, this is scary on the page. Like, if you're into the story, it's definitely like, what? Like the design of the characters, like Maxine with the spider body in that dream was like, what? It's so creepy looking. So it's good stuff. That's also a callback to like Anton Arcane in the Swamp Thing run. He has, before he gets sent to hell in the Alan Moore run, he has like a spider body that's like he made or whatever. It's like really, but it looks, they're like calling back on some of that creepy artistry. Also, the art in this looks a lot like Stephen Bissett and John Totalben from the Alan Moore arc of Swamp Thing.
Oh, nice.
Like, it's got that same like really detailed, fine, scratchy lines and stuff, and just like kind of looks manic-ish in some parts.
Oh, yeah, in some parts for sure.
Yeah, like that's what
purposely manic.
Yeah. Yes. So that is the end of this trade. John, what did you think? What would you give it?
Okay, so this is. I'm glad that we went through this before and we didn't
rate it beforehand.
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't usually rate it beforehand, but I mean, we didn't really talk as twos. Like, have you, what do you know? What do we do about this one? And let's think it's because we also, we're revisiting Animal Man, and I will say that we were making jokes a little bit beforehand. How you don't influence my vote sometimes as we talk through it, because maybe I missed something or maybe I didn't see something a certain way. But I feel like I'm holding strong with how I felt going into this, even after talking through it. Okay. All the things I liked, I definitely agreed upon, and like I'm there with you. But some of it didn't quite hit for me, like the first Ant-Man one we did with
Animal Man.
Animal Man. What did I say?
Ant-Man.
Sorry, Animal Man. Yes. Grant Morrison.
Grant Morrison run.
Yeah, sorry, I almost said Alan Moore because we were just talking about it. But yeah, Grant Morrison. And I think I like the little bit of that campiness of like, oh, where's the animal? I need like,
yes,
I think
you know what that is though? That's the 80s. That's like, we're still telling stories for kids, but so we have to explain stuff like that. But we also, and the art is different. You know, it's funner. It's like more bright. It's, you know, it's got like a completely different feel. Even though it's Grant Morrison, I was gonna say Alan Moore too. Yeah. Even though it's Grant Morrison. Who's like making it heavy and adding all these cool things to it, it's still an 80s comic. Whereas this is like, we're in the 210s, buddy. You know,
buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. You ain't getting no explanation of anything, you know, and hopefully you can enjoy it just for what it is.
So then I think this is where we're really going to see, if we read any more newer things that you enjoy or that you want to check out, I think this is maybe where we'll really start to see where our where some of our comic differences are, because I mean I guess that's why I'm a little bit more of a Marvel fan sometimes. I'm just kidding.
I don't think this has anything to do with DC or Marvel, because if you read Marvel from the same time, I don't think it's any easier.
Well, I was just making a joke because, like you said, because you said it was more for kids, and I was like, oh, so you're calling me? I need.
No, I just mean that they explain stuff more, which, you know, especially if this is the first run or the first issue or trade paperback of a run, you should throw in that stuff just so we know what we're establishing as the powers and everything.
And I think maybe my long story short, because I you guys know I ramble on this podcast. I think that because I already have that a little bit of establishment for this character, and I did know some of the things, I was kind of sad because this is like, you know, a rehashing, but revamping of it. But the things that I liked in those were not in this.
Yes.
And so, like, I liked the creepiness of that. I really enjoyed the, like, seeing where this is going, like, with the red, and then there's this rot, and that's, you know, they're basically, their plan's already starting to work. They're trying to get into things. That was what, they tricked her, basically. They tricked me.
They did, yeah.
And I liked that. That stuff in this hit, and it was awesome. And the art is really good. But the things I didn't like were more on the Animal Man side, where I feel like I didn't get the Animal Man that I wanted. I didn't get like him like using animals to advantage, or him like having
and also I will say that's probably because this is about his daughter becoming the new avatar of the Red, not about Animal Man.
Animal Man, yeah.
So it's trying to establish like, hey buddy, you did a great job in the 80s, you know, when like before, like even though this is supposed to be like in the same time period, because they're the same age, like everybody's the same age as they were in that 80s, right?
Yeah.
But you know, this is Maxine's time, because that was also part of like the New 52 is like we're bringing legacy characters into place of those other people. You know, so the old characters.
Well, either way, so we'll say that I don't know. I have to get more of Maxine's story, and this isn't enough for me. I went into this being like, okay, Animal Man, and I was like, okay, I like where this is going, but I didn't get the Animal Man info that I wanted.
You know what we could do? We could do like a Rot World run or something, like three episodes or whatever, where we do like trade 2, trade 3, trade 4, or whatever that is, and then you could get the full
see how it
story.
Yeah, I would like to, because I'll say for this I'm gonna go lower on this one than the last Animal Man. I'm gonna go with a 6.
Okay, yeah, you gave it a 7 last time, right?
Yeah, because like that one I was all in, and like, I think one of the things specifically I said in the last one, like I felt the entire time like I never felt like, oh man, when is this gonna pick up? In this, there were several times where I was like, okay, like when's the next part? Once all of the rot stuff happens, I like that. But like when there's those in between parts in this, it kind of slowed down.
There's talking. There's a lot of family stuff that's not as like there was family stuff in the old one, but it was more dynamic. That's kind of like a new comic thing where like we're just gonna have people sit and drink coffee and talk and just panel, reverse panel, reverse panel. Like there's just a lot of talking scenes in modern comics, so. I'm used to that. I don't like it, like you said, as much as the old stuff because of that. But back then, they just knew how to draw stuff dynamically, even a conversation. They'd have anger in their face or a cup being smashed down or whatever, just to make the thing cool or like somewhat interesting. But I feel what you're talking about. So you give it a 6, you said? Mm-hmm. So interestingly, like you said, sometimes I influence you, John. With this, and I'm going to grade this as if I haven't read the rest of the run, because I think that's unfair, because this is the first trade. So we were I tried to do it with the other one too. Like we're just going on the first trade,
Mm-hmm.
and so same with this one. I feel the same way as you do especially after you explain why. I'm like, okay, because I was kind of going like, it gets fucking awesome, and look at that horror stuff, and I'm a big horror fan, so I was like, what the fuck, like when some of this stuff was going down. But a lot of that stuff happens in trade 2, trade 3.
Yeah.
So I just know it's going to happen, and that's coloring my, liking of this book or whatever. So, but I'm going to be as objective as I can. And I'm also going to give this a 6 because I think once I saw, like, they don't really explain animals' powers at all. You're just supposed to understand what it was. Hopefully you read the Grant Morrison stuff. They kind of show it a little bit, but then it's all about Maxine. We're trying to set up Maxine as the avatar. And also, like, I don't know how this would feel if you've never read, like, Swamp Thing or understand the concept of the realms, avatars of the green, or any of that stuff. So they don't set up any of that either. They're just like, oh, the red. And like, what? Like, okay, that's weird. Alan Moore takes his time explaining there was this place called the Green, and you are part of that. And it takes like 6 issues for Swamp Thing to understand, and then he meets the Parliament of Trees in 10 issues. Like there's a lot of explanation that he builds up to because it is a high concept. So I feel like if you haven't read any of that and you go into this like, oh, what's this? I've always seen this weird character Animal Man, or that sounds fun. Let me just pick up this first issue. I feel like you would probably have a hard time like, wait, what? Like the red?
And then why did it? Yeah. I mean, if you, like I said, I know that little bit about Swamp Thing because of you. So
Matt's Mini.
Yeah, if I didn't know about Matt's Minis on the Plain Series and Comic Books channel, I wouldn't know that why it's important that they're like, we need to see Swamp Thing at the end, and be like, oh, well, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that stuff too. Like that excites me, but because I know who the fuck Swamp Thing
but exactly, is. Other people would be like, I mean, he might be in the zeitgeist that people be like, okay, I know who Swamp Thing is, but
that
why
shitty movie from the 80s?
Yeah, there you go. Or they've seen what he looks like, but like they're like, okay, why are they going to Swamp Thing?
I think they're assuming that you will pick this up because you are a fan of those side characters, so you probably already know who he is.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me. Like, I would like to get someone who doesn't know anything about any DC and give them this book. And then them be like, it was great, or I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
It stinks. So, you know what? Talking even more, I'm going to give it a 5.5. Just because I think that kind of drops the ball. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a fantastic book series. Definitely go pick it up. But I really think that if you don't know like anything about those other things, it would be hard to pick up just by itself, never having read a superhero comic, which... a lot of DC stuff is like that, but usually the first trade of a new run, especially this was supposed to be like the reboot of the entire DC line.
Yeah.
Here's a bunch of number ones again. And I will say that the Swamp Thing one does go like, my name was Alec Holland. This is who I was. And it takes the steps to explain things. Where this is just like, have fun. Hopefully I mean, it tells you like who Buddy Baker is, but then the idea of like, the red, which is a new concept for this and things like that. It's like, okay.
Yeah, even if that one splash page where it shows him like realizing where those animals are close
to him. It doesn't say why he can absorb them.
If it just said a couple blocks of those of like, these animals are in the vicinity and he can obtain the powers that he wants from them.
Yeah.
And like even that
it's like a Stan Lee tagline.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's all you need. And I mean, I like sometimes when they just don't hold your hand, but this seemed like because it's a number one, should kind of hold your hand a little bit. And I feel like the Swamp Thing run did do that for this, whereas this one did not. So, I'm going to give it 5.5 just based on like how hard it would be for someone coming into it, I think, who doesn't know anything about DC. If you just were like, hey, this guy looks cool, and you pick that trade up, what would you be able to figure out, But like I said, this is a fantastic run in its own, and I'm probably grading it hard because I just didn't like that.
Yeah,
the fact that this like left someone hanging that could be a real fan of Animal Man. Mm-hmm. Like you could give them the Grant Morrison Animal Man, they'd be good to go. They might be like, whoa, there's like fucking she almost gets raped in there. Like it's, like there's some crazy shit in that one, but like it explains everything.
We're talking more, and you make me want to change mine now too. But I'm not going. No. Well, no, it's because I was thinking about it, and I'm just gonna say in general, it's like I feel like I enjoyed our benchmark one as a solid story more than this one. but I'm not going to change anything.
You mean Hush?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay.
But I'm not going to change anything this time. We're going to stick with the 6.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, you got to rate this book as a whole, like with the art and everything. I think
For sure.
I mean, obviously Hush has amazing art, but I think that story's pretty fucking weak. And you might be colored because you know every Batman character already, so you're like, oh, I don't need any hand holding. But if you gave Hush to someone who had never read Batman or didn't know anything about Batman, and you're like, here you go, you'd be like, who the fuck are all these?
Where are all these villains coming from?
That's what I'm saying. I'm rating it harshly because I'm looking at this like, I don't know anything about Animal Man. You hand me this trade, and I read it, and I go, okay, I mean, I think that's cool. This is cool. The art's really creepy and weird. But then this, like, I'm not sure exactly how the powers work or what's going on. How come he can, ape out in the red, but he can't on Earth? And I'm like interjecting a lot of that stuff because I know from Swamp Thing and all that. So, that's why I'm going 5.5. But like I said, by no means is this a bad story. Anyway, enough of that. John, what are we reading next week?
We are going to read. Finally, you're getting me. It has been like, I don't know, probably 10 years you've been telling me, you need to read this comic. So we're finally going to sit down and read Frank Miller's Sin City.
Hell yeah. The first volume.
The first volume.
There's
yeah, not the whole. Yeah, I was like, not the whole thing. I am going to dip my toe into the Sin City world.
Yeah, and also, this is also special. John has not seen the movie, so this is his first, introduction to the world of Sin City by Frank Miller, which is going to be awesome. Like, if you've seen the movie, it kind of probably ruins the book a bit, I would think.
I feel like you told me that. I feel like that was part of the reason I think I didn't see that one at the time, because you were like, no, you should really read the comic on this first. And then I just never went back and
I'm trying to remember when it came out.
2002, 2004.
Yeah, like it came out when I was in high school, so you could have seen it then before you met me.
Yeah, but I won't think I was watching a lot of comic films that I hadn't seen.
Well, you might not know it was a comic movie. You might have just been like, oh, it's a good movie.
Maybe. That's true. But no, I hadn't seen it.
Okay.
I'm sure I've seen the trailer, and then I know images in my head of like Mickey Rourke and Bruce Willis in it.
Yeah, so this is the character of the Mickey Rourke story in that. Okay. So it's about Marv. It's called The Hard Goodbye, The Hard Goodbye. Yeah. So it's volume 1 of Sin City. And so I'm excited about that. It kind of got brought up again in my memory because we read the Polar series, and that is, very Sin City-esque. It's it's got that same feel, except it's got color. Sin City is just black and white. So,
there's no like blood color.
No, there's some color, but only for specific characters.
Okay.
I don't remember there being blood at all.
Maybe like red lipstick on.
Stuff like that. Like very like, if it's like I want it to stand out. Well, there's one character that isn't in this volume, I don't think, called the Yellow Bastard, and he's yellow. Okay. But that's like volume 4 or 5. So there was like 3 volumes or 4 volumes of black and white, and then this one has a yellow character.
Oh, that's fun.
So yeah, it's interesting. But
cool.
So we will be reading that next week. And speaking of stuff we'll be reading, right now we have our poll up for picking what we're going to read for the end of this month. We have manga as our choices this month. So if you would like to vote on that, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And you'll be able to vote on what we read once every month. We just pick like 4 titles that you can choose from. And sometimes if there's like a tie or a close second, we'll do the one that wins for sure that month, and then maybe throw the one that didn't win but got close second in the next month or the following month. So stuff like that. I think it's kind of cool as a fan to be able to influence a podcast.
For sure. And thanks to our patrons, we've got Ed H. Hoku and Otaku Mike.
Yes.
We appreciate all you guys so much.
Yes, as always. And very much, I love the feedback you guys give us, and it is so nice to have people who care. So if right now, if you want, you can listen to my Matt's Minis Hellblazer podcast on Patreon only right now. I will be actually uploading, like, I'm 30 issues ahead on that podcast, so I'm going to start going back and throwing up the old episodes just to maybe wet people's whistles and get them into the Hellblazer Matt's Minis podcast. But until then, if you listen to that and you're like, hey, I want to know what happens and I don't have time to wait, because I'm only doing that twice a month, so I'm like 30 issues ahead. That's every week.
It's gonna be a while, yeah.
It's once a week I do that one, so you're never gonna catch up. I'm always going to be at least 30 issues ahead, and that's a lot of podcast time. So
Yeah.
if you want to know what happens, if you can't handle it, you need to find out what happens to Hellblazer, go check out our Patreon. Once again, at patreon.com/plain-change-the-comic-books, and you can get every issue or every episode of Hellblazer. And like I said, we're on issue 32 or last week we were at issue 32. This week we're going to be at issue 33. And it's only getting better as we go on.
Hell yeah.
And so that's it. I don't think there's anything else to talk about.
Now, on this one, don't forget about all our social media, Instagram, YouTube, for exclusive content as well. We've got a lot of fun little videos on there. I guess with that, we'll see you on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.